Universities and colleges in Ontario got some very challenging news this month. Students will get a 10% tuition cut for the next academic year, which sounds like a nice break, but what impact will it have on the post-secondary institutions these students will be attending? Joining us now to explore the consequences of the government's new plans, Alex Usher. He's president of the consulting firm Higher Education Strategy Associates. Gillian Phillips, president of OCUFA, the Ontario Confederation of University Faculty Associations. She's also professor of English Studies at Nipissing University in North Bay. Brittany Gregg is here. She's president of the College Student Alliance and a student at Conestoga College in Kitchener. And Noor Alideeb, chairperson of the Canadian Federation of Students Ontario and a student at U of T Mississauga. And it's great to have you four around our table here tonight for a very timely conversation about what's happening in the post-secondary world of this province. And to that end, Mr. Director, Sir Sheldon, would you bring up the following graphics and we can tell everybody what's been happening over the last little while. You no doubt heard the government plans to insist that universities lower tuition rates and colleges by 10% for all domestic students at every publicly funded college and university. That's for the 2019-20 school year, and freezing tuition rates for the 2020 and 21 school year. The government will allow students to opt out over the additional fees that they pay, except for fees which contribute to student health and safety or fund major services and facilities, and these fees can go as high as $2,000 annually. Government wants to change the OSAP rules, that's the Ontario Student Assistance Plan rules, to align closer to pre-2016 levels, and this means so-called free tuition for lower-income students will be replaced by a mix of grants and loans. Grant money will be directed to students from lower-income families. Students with family incomes of $140,000 a year or more will no longer be eligible for any grant. And the government intends to remove the 6-month grace period after graduation, so interest on your loans accrues right away. Okay, one thing you may notice here is that the Minister of Training Colleges and Universities is not among us. That was not for lack of trying. We did invite Mary Lee Fullerton to come on the program, but the numerous requests to her office for her participation went unanswered. We tried. Let's go around the table here. Alex, what's the headline on all the changes the government has proposed?
It's about $450 million less in the pockets of institutions because that tuition cut is not being made up by any increase in government funding. In fact, it's likely to be accompanied by some further cuts, but we don't know what they are. We probably won't know it until budget day. For domestic students, they all get a 10% reduction in tuition. That sounds good. From what we have understood, it looks like a cut of about $600–700 million in student aid. And I think the best way to put this is nearly all the students who were on student aid before will see the cut in their grant be larger than the cut in tuition. So if you were on student aid before, the net effect is you're going to pay more. Not necessarily your pocket because the grant's going to be replaced by loans, but in the in net terms. If you didn't have student aid before, particularly if you were a student, you come from a family of $160,000, $170,000 a year family income and higher, you're 100% better off. You have no cut in grant and you get the full tuition.
All right.
Cut.
We'll dive deeper on all these things as we go along. Noor, your view on like the bullet points of the changes here.
So unfortunately, with this cut to OSAP, what we're going to see is more students taking on loans as opposed to non-repayable grants. At the end of our degrees, what that means is that we're going to have to pay back those loans with interest, ending up in a very vicious cycle of student debt. Another aspect of this announcement was opting out of student ancillary fees, which are fees associated with different services that students are provided on campus. This is actually very problematic because students have already democratically decided that they want to allocate resources and funding to these priorities. It could be transit passes, it could be their campus paper, it could be student unions and so much more. So what this creates is students will have to magically, find out how they're going to pay their tuition fees, but then make really difficult decisions about whether or not they want to continue to invest in resources that actually benefit them in the long run.
Is it possible, for example, that you're at U of T, let's say the Varsity. Is it possible the Varsity newspaper could cease to exist because the students will no longer have to support it?
Unfortunately, yes, there are a number of individuals who may see that the Varsity doesn't quite benefit them, but campus papers are crucial to be reporting on events and issues that students, relate to and need to be in the loop of. So I think this is something that's not just, an issue for the Varsity, it's actually an issue for all campus publications across the province.
Brittany, your view?
I think my view is that the 10% tuition cut was a very pretty bow on a not so pretty package. In the end, I don't think it results in what students are thinking it might result in. The OSAP changes are obviously pretty devastating to each individual student, especially those who are currently under the threshold and receiving the net free tuition, which is why a lot of them came back to school. There's a lot of mature students who've come back because they've been guaranteed this money that is now being taken away from them, and how do they continue on? I think another big point is what Noor said, the fact that student associations might be losing their funding because of this, and students are going to have to make those tough choices and might not see the value up front. They might not understand what their student associations do. An example is my student association at home. We provide a food bank on campus. It's an essential service, but might not be viewed as one. But we definitely end up giving out, I think it's around 120 packages per month.
To students?
To students who need this, who don't have the food and wouldn't have it available. So it's a once a month emergency thing. But students don't know they need it until they do need it. And how do you turn a student away if they're not paying for it?
Interesting. What do the faculty associations have to say about these changes?
Well, faculty are united with students across Ontario in opposition to these cuts. I think what we'll see is obviously a hit to the universities, around $440 million, which is just without any top up from government funding, is just going to be a cut to operations, and a substantial cut to grants, which is going to put many more students in debt. And I think also disturbing is the attack on student governance and democracy on campuses. And I think it's interesting, Noor's point about student presses on campus, among other things that other elements that student unions provide. This is a government that said it was in favor of free speech on campus. And here are the vocal and organized voices for students to comment on everything from university governance to government funding of universities, and they're under threat now. So that's not free speech. And I think your point about Minister Fullerton is also reflected in this announcement for us as well, because none of the stakeholders in our sector, students, faculty, universities, were consulted about these cuts. And there are so many implications.
Are you sure about that? I don't know. I mean, you're telling me that faculty associations were not consulted by the government
Correct.
In the formulation of this announcement?
Yes, that's correct. We, at ACUFA, as you did, tried to contact the minister's office repeatedly, and were ignored or had our efforts to consult were rejected.
Well, okay, the minister's not here, but let me be so presumptuous as to say, if she were here, Alex, here's what she'd say. She'd say the deficit of the province of Ontario right now is going through the roof. She'd say all of the way it's been has been wonderful, but we can't afford it anymore. And that they've had to make, you talk about tough choices students have to make, they as a government have to make some very difficult choices so that the whole system is sustainable 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. What's your response to that argument?
Well, there's a fair bit of truth to that, in the sense that Peter Bethlenfalvy made the announcement in the fall. He said, look, we're going to cut, he essentially said we're going to cut spending by about 12%.
He's the president of the Treasury Board in charge of government spending.
And he said every department was going to be asked to take its lumps, basically. No one was going to be excluded from that. If you look at the total amount that's being taken out of the post-secondary budget, it's pretty close to 12%. This is what dead on what they said they were going to do. So the total size of this, shouldn't surprise anyone. And it's in line with what they said. I think there were some other ways they could have done this. I think there were ways that they could have certainly saved the free tuition portion for lower income students. There was no need to make the distribution of benefits such that poor students got less and rich students got more. That was a policy choice they made that I don't think was necessary. And I would say that the stuff around student government has nothing to do with the deficit. That's simply gratuitous.
Let me follow up on the so-called free tuition plan, because that's something that the previous Liberal government brought out to a great deal of fanfare, because the idea was, if you are from a relatively low-income household, Government of Ontario is going to pay your tuition, and therefore that will not be a barrier to seeking post-secondary education. Can you tell us from your experience, if you know, whether that program essentially was working?
Well, I think one of the things about the cuts to OSAP is that they were that they come after a kind of manufactured crisis. So the Auditor General released an analysis of the revamped program under the Liberals, saying that it wasn't effective, it was too expensive, and that paved the way, unfortunately, for these cuts. But I think it was much too early to assess whether or not this program was meeting its goals in a couple of ways. One thing that the Auditor General suggested was that it didn't increase enrollments very much, or in a large way. But I think two things here. One is that the goal of the program was to get students off debt. Right? It was to remove those barriers for students from low-income families to get into the system and to finish their education. And as far as anyone knows, the program was beginning to work in that way. But I think a larger question here is the term of assessment for the success of this program. 12 months is simply not long enough to say whether or not it has moved more students into the system and whether it has moved substantial numbers off of debt.
But Noor, I think the problem the Auditor General was suggesting was that the previous government had budgeted this much for making this program work, and she could see down the road that it was going to cost this much. And again, a government trying to cut spending is not going to like a program that's costing this much. Fair point?
Well, budgets are about priorities, and I think that as a society, post-secondary education should be one of our #1 priorities. We all benefit from a well-educated society, and seeing the ways that our economy is fluctuating and who's being laid off and who needs to go back into post-secondary education to, enhance their skills and then go back out into the workforce, Ontario won't be open for business if we're not well-educated. So I think it's okay for us to allocate a fair amount of our budget to post-secondary education. What was interesting about the changes to OSAP in 2017 was that they were an amalgamation of grants that had already existed. There, from my understanding, was no new funding that was injected into the program. If there were, I think we would have seen markers change around, enrollment and things like that. But what was amazing about the program, and I have criticisms about it as well because it's not free tuition, it's just a grant program. We saw 1 in 4 students be able to go to post-secondary education and have enough of their tuition covered by these grants. So I think that the Auditor General did sort of jump the gun. I think we needed more time to see how effective this program was, but going back and really understanding what this policy change really was. It was just reallocating funding to be more efficient, and I'm all about efficiencies. So
Can I want to get just a little personal with you two right now. You're at UTM. What are you taking?
My major is economics, and then my minors are biology and women and gender studies.
And what year are you in?
I'm in my 6th year because I'm a part-time student, part-time and proud. I'm going to be graduating soon.
So this will be your last year?
Yes.
You will be graduating in the spring?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So the actual 10% tuition reduction for next year will have no impact on you?
No, but
Right.
that's okay.
What's your student deficit or your student debt looking like right now?
Well, because I dropped down to part-time when I was in my 3rd year, I started paying it back because I was working full-time. So now it's at around $10,000, which isn't as bad, but I did get married, and you sort of inherit your partner's OSAP as well. So collectively, we have around $30,000 to pay off.
Between you and your husband?
Yeah. So there's that.
How much time do you get to pay that off?
It's as long as you
you
can. But what happens is that you accumulate interest on it, and that, all of that really impacts the way you're able to make other decisions. Can we purchase a home? No. Can we start a family? No. There are so many different things that we have to, take a step back and really reassess our ability to move forward just because of these loans.
What rate of interest do they charge you?
Oh goodness, I don't even remember. That's the thing, is that it doesn't matter how much it's charging me because right now I just have to pay it. It doesn't matter how much interest it is.
Got it. Okay, Brittany, your situation, you're at Conestoga.
Yes.
Taking?
International Business Management and Human Resources.
Great. What year are you in?
I'm in my 4th year and my last one.
4th and final. So
Yes.
again, the tuition cut for next year doesn't help you at all.
No, it
Unless,
doesn't
are you going back for more,
impact.
or is that it?
Eventually, my hope is to go for a master's degree, but that's a future me problem.
That may be further down the road. Okay. What kind of student debt are you looking at right now?
I'm actually really lucky because I received a lot of grants throughout it, as well as worked pretty hard between different jobs, that I'll be graduating debt-free.
Good for you.
Which I'm very excited about, but I definitely could not graduate debt-free if I hadn't received those grants in the past. There would be no way.
Where do you live?
I live with my parents, so I've been very blessed
That
to
helps too.
have that. and my parents have let me live there rent-free and use their car, which has definitely helped in not having to take on more loans. But I could definitely see for a lot of the students who have to live away from home to achieve post-secondary education and them not getting the grants and their grants going down, it's not a feasible expectation.
Okay, with all of that in place then, I want to go back to Alex and get your view on the changes that the government is making. Again, when you and I went to university, there were certain ancillary fees we had to pay. We did not have the option. Now the government is saying many of these are going to be optional, many. How do you see this rolling out?
No idea. No, the government's been very, very cagey about this one, and I get the impression this particular announcement was not fully baked when they made it, because there's certainly some of the wording suggests that they don't understand either their own ancillary fee rules or how student association fees get bundled.
I mean, on the one hand, students enjoy the services from these ancillary fees. But on the other hand, a lot of students probably don't want to pay them, right, if they don't have to. They might appreciate having the option. Do you have a sense about where the majority of students are on this issue?
I think the more that we talk to our members, the more students understand the implications of these changes and what it would mean for their day-to-day lives. Again, I think a number of students use services and after the fact realize that, oh, this is provided by my student union, oh, it's provided by my campus publication, and so forth. But what's interesting about a lot of the wording is like, who gets to dictate what is essential and what's not? And that's a lot of the ambiguity around that. And I think a lot of students are standing up and saying, I should get to determine what is essential because I'm the student accessing these services. I want to circle back again to the fact that students have already democratically decided that they want these services. They do it through referendums. They elect their student body the same way that we elect a provincial government and so forth. So I think what's really happening here is not really trying to save students money, but circumventing the processes that already exist for students to decide what they want to spend on.
Was there opposition to student fees?
There is opposition to student fees, of course, but it's a democracy and the majority of students want to see their funding go towards these resources because for us to be able to advocate for free post-secondary education, that comes from our student unions. For us to be able to engage in discussion around a variety of student issues at our university or college, it's in these spaces that are created by our student center, our student spaces and so much more. Our clubs and our societies enhance the student experience because they give you academic and non-academic experiences that give you really a holistic approach to post-secondary education. So I think at the end of the day, there will be some opposition. But interestingly enough, the minister didn't actually engage with the largest student organizations in the province. They actually engaged with a small population of their own party. So I think if you want to really make a holistic policy change, you should be consulting with the people, which are the students across the province.
I think that the ancillary fee changes definitely are not the best way because, again, as said, that it's a democratic process. An example is we just ran a referendum on my college to put a bus pass in place, and it passed by a majority vote. We were in talks. We're working with our Grand River Transit to be able to put this UPass system in place to help the majority of our students. And our students voted for this. And the ministry hasn't said yet if the students voted for it, what that looks like. Does it count as an essential fee? They've said third-party providers don't. But if students have voted in favor of this, how do you then turn back to them within less than a year and be like, nope, sorry, you can't have this service anymore? Because if it's opt-outable, then GRT is not going to work with us.
A little confusing at the moment.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to, we're going to show a chart here. Alex, I think this is one of your charts here, and it talks about where university funding comes from. And watch the monitors here in the studio if you want to, and we'll sort of follow the bouncing ball here. And for people who listen on podcast, I'm going to describe this in some detail here so that everybody can hear where we're at. If you go to the left-hand side, so we're going back late 1970s, you can see that obviously tuition was less, but the government paid a larger proportion of all of the university's revenue. It accounted for. And then as you go along, yes, the graph lines are getting taller, so universities are having more revenue these days. But you can see the bottom part of that graph, the government's allocation to post-secondary institutions is not as big as it once was. Alex, am I describing that properly? Is that the gist of it?
Yeah, governments everybody was contributing more pretty consistently from about the mid-90s through to the late 2000s, right? So the student contribution was growing, government contribution was growing, institutional own source revenues were growing. And what happened after the 2008-2009 recession is provincial governments just sort of flatlined their commitment to universities. That's just universities, but the college graph looks pretty similar.
The universities seem to have found other sources to supplement.
And largely what they've done is they've gone to international students. So that what you really see is that there's a big growth in the student contribution. That's not because we've asked domestic students to pay a lot more, because those numbers have been sort of inflation plus 1%, inflation plus 2% pretty consistently for about 15 years now. The big change is we've got a lot more international students than we did before, and they're paying a lot of money.
Well, I think we've got a graphic on that. Should we bring that one up right now? Here's what you pay if you're from somewhere else. Well, take a look at that graph there. In the province of Ontario, we get more on average per international student than any other province in the country, by a lot. It's more than $32,000 annually that it costs for an international student to go to an Ontario post-secondary university, and it goes all the way down to less than $10,000 if you're in Newfoundland and Labrador. So do we assume, Gillian, that every university in this province now is going to be beating the bushes all over the world to try to get more international students to help deal with these cuts?
Yes.
That's the plan.
That has been, as you can see, that's been the strategy so far. I know since I think it's 2007 until 2017, the proportion of fees or university budgets from international student tuition has gone from 7% to 17%. In that same amount of time, the proportion of public funding has gone down 20%. So we've seen an exact reversal, right? An exact swap of income from international student fees to offset the lack of injection of public funding.
Now, let me do the follow-up in your case, because let's just state it clearly. It's probably easier for McGill or U of T or University of Victoria in British Columbia to attract more international students than it is for Nipissing in North Bay, Ontario.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you worry about getting left behind in this as this train leaves the station?
Well, I think it's a real challenge for any university that's regionally based, right? That's outside of a large urban center. For sure, the large urban universities are having a much easier time attracting international students. And for those of us who are smaller, we're in somewhat more remote regions, we serve regional populations, it's going to be a lot harder to attract those students onto our campuses. I also think it's a problematic long-term solution for funding universities, right? International student fees are a volatile market. It's not a stable source of funding. It goes up and down, and international students also, they come needing resources. Like they should come expecting resources from universities when they come. But if all of their fees are being diverted to just general operations of the university to offset the lack of public funding, that's going to be a real challenge for the universities and for those students.
I should ask all of you here, does anybody have a problem with universities or colleges trying harder to reach out further to bring more international students into their midst? Anybody have a problem with that? I see nobody. Oh, okay. Noor, maybe?
I would say no. I think international students are crucial to our post-secondary education system on the realm of their academic and social contributions. If we are only going and aggressively recruiting international students to make up the lack of funding by the province, then I have a problem with that.
Okay, in which case, and Alex, I'm going back to you on this one here. Explain this for us. A 10% reduction in tuition does not equal a 10% drop in revenue for colleges and universities, right? No. It's not that big.
No.
But what does it represent?
So Ontario is the one province in Canada where tuition fees form a bigger part of institutional revenues than government grants. So, and I don't have the number right at the tip of my tongue, but it's 40-45% of institutional revenues coming from tuition fees.
Where's all the rest come from?
A mix of government and own source revenues.
Okay.
Okay. So it's different at different institutions. U of T actually gets more money from international students than it does from Queen's Park. Okay, and so again, how this 10% hits people, at Nipissing or La Cité or institutions like that where there aren't many international students, a 10% hit to domestic tuition does mean a cut of 4 to 5%, right? Because it's 10% of the 40. At U of T, where less than half of tuition fees come from domestic students, it probably means about a 2.5% cut.
Let's also, and Nora, let me get you on this. It's 10% next year. Universities were expecting to be able to raise their tuitions at least 3% next year. So that 10 is now suddenly 13. It's a freeze in the following year when they might have wanted to increase their tuitions another 3%. So 13 plus 3 is now 16% less revenue 2 years from now than what universities had planned. I want to know how they're going to eat that 16%. The minister said, I'm sure they'll just get innovative and figure it out. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, a lot of our institutions are going to have to make really difficult changes to the way that they operate. That could mean resulting in cuts to faculty, which will impact the student-faculty ratio in our classrooms, meaning that the quality of education for students will decrease. That could look like service cuts. Our institutions are old institutions with new responsibilities related to sexual violence, mental health, international student support, and so much more. We may see a decrease in the supports there, which again, at the end of the day, students get the short end of the stick. So a lot of these institutions are going to have to find a way to make up that money and try to still provide services and supports to students at the same level that they have been, and hopefully even better. But I think that they're going to have to, go back to the drawing board and really imagine how things are going to change.
I can imagine. Well, you tell me. Has it happened yet that the university administration has come to you as the faculty association person at Nipissing and said, okay, this means you're not getting a raise for a long time. This means we're going to have to lay off a bunch of probably contract professors and instructors and, maybe a few other things as well. And sorry, but that's the way it is. And you're going to say what?
Well, I think certainly Nipissing is looking at a bigger hit from its budget at my university. We're already very close to the bone. And I think one of the things that I'm concerned about is that it's not like we walked into this cut with giant bags of money stashed away in our pockets. Universities have been underfunded for over a decade. There's been no increase for over 10 years to public funding of institutions, hence the over-reliance or increasing reliance on tuition. So we've already seen the consequences of budget cuts.
Okay, but the minister has said we are creating a special fund specifically for northern universities because we recognize the unique challenges that they have. And full disclosure here, I'm chancellor at Laurentian University, a ceremonial role there. So I'll just put that out there in the interest of full disclosure. Do you think that special Northern Universities Fund could be helpful to Nipissing?
Hopefully it is. We don't have any details about what that will look like, how much it is, or how universities access it. But definitely, it's good that the minister has recognized the special situation for universities in the north. But the fact is that across Ontario, and especially outside the GTA, universities have been laboring under funding cuts for years, and that has meant increasing class sizes. We have the largest faculty-to-student ratio in the country. 31-1. The Canadian average is 22-1. That's huge. We spend the least amount of money per student for our university education.
It's been that way for 40 years. I got news for you. Even in the sainted Bill Davis days, Ontario was 10th out of 10 in per student allocation from the province of Ontario. It's just always been that way.
We spend like 20%, 21% less than the Canadian average, right? So we are at the bottom in terms of. You
want to go ahead? Some people think I make it up out here. Let's let's bring that up. Go ahead, Sheldon. I'm not making this up. Hang on. Where is that graphic? There we go. Graphic number 2. Bingo. That's the one. Look at the province of Ontario right in the middle there. Yes, each province, what it spends on post-secondary students in Ontario is, and as far as I know, has been for at least half a century, 10th out of 10 when it comes to provincial per-student funding. That's just the way it is. I don't know why, but it's always been that way. Listen, you want me to ask Alex that? Okay, Alex, why?
I think we actually briefly climbed up into 9th under McGuinty, but it was pretty short-lived. I think that, so first of all, because we have higher tuition fees, in effect, it's not that the institutions have less dollars per student, it's that they're getting less from government. So it does kind of balance out a little bit. It's not that Ontario students are having fewer funds spent, it's not that the professors have less money to spend per student.
But
it's
less
that
from the government.
That's right, it's less from the government. So that's one thing. The second thing is, on average, institutions in Ontario are huge, and there are some economies of scale. Right, so it's a little bit different in provinces like, in the Atlantic provinces where, your biggest institution is 10 or 15,000 and most of your institutions are 3,000, 4,000. Those are expensive universities to run.
Right.
The difference here is, the average institution in Ontario is huge, and there are some benefits of scale, and so they can deliver similar kinds of services to students with a little less money.
Okay, with just a few minutes left here, I want to, where was this? This was in the New York Times not too long ago, and this is, boy, is this a sign of the times? This is about a place called the University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point, and this is happening increasingly across North America. There we go, Sheldon, thank you. Chancellor Bernie Patterson's message to his campus was blunt: to remain solvent and relevant, his 125-year-old university needed to reinvent itself. Some long-standing liberal arts degrees, including those in history, French, and German, would be eliminated. Career-focused programs would become a key investment. Tenured faculty members could lose their jobs. The University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, Dr. Patterson explained in a memo, could, quote, no longer be all things to all people. I guess I want to ask the person taking liberal arts over there, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate that this is a conversation. And to be honest with you, it's been a conversation for the past few years when it came to the funding model for post-secondary education, because that policy is also coming up for renewal. And one of the often the pushback that was received was that we don't want institutions to focus on specific types of programming, assuming that, this will support the job market later. Our job market is very volatile. It changes very often. So I think the best way for us to ensure that we can go through that with some sort of stability, we have to ensure that people are going to post-secondary education out of curiosity and out of their interest, because they will succeed more. And then we will have people on a wide range of, with a wide range of skills to be able to contribute back to society. So this is a very scary topic that I think a lot of people are discussing to see. I know institutions like U of T will probably turn towards programs that will ensure they get more funding, like graduate degrees, medicine, engineering, things like that. But what does that mean for everyone else? And where will students have to travel, especially in Northern Ontario, if the institution they want to go to doesn't have the program that they have?
I want to put that to Alex. Do you think Ontario is now facing a similar rush to, quote unquote, more career-focused programs in the post-secondary world?
I think it's been undergoing that for several years, but not because governments want it. It's because that's where the student demand is. Student demand has shifted rather radically in the last 7, 8 years. We now, for the first time as of last year, have more students in STEM than we do in arts and social, humanities and social sciences. And, I think part of the issue with Stevens Point is, those degrees, German, history, enrollment's plummeting. And I think, the point you made is absolutely right. You want students to go for reasons of curiosity. But if they stop going to certain programs, what's the justification for continuing to offer them? I think that's where those students were. I think in Ontario, the unheralded story of the last few years, in fact, is that institutions have been eating the extra costs associated with these STEM programs. As we said, there's no new money in the system in real terms, and yet institutions have radically increased the number of STEM programs, which are far more costly to deliver than English or history or those things, and they've eaten those costs. They haven't asked for anything there. If this is simply a financial thing, most institutions would prefer to give money to be teaching students in arts and social sciences because they're cheaper. I think, in fact, the financial crunch at institutions has been much bigger than anybody realizes, because institutions voluntarily, without government telling them to, have said, we want to meet student demand, we want to meet students where they want to be. We're going to have more technology programs, we're going to have more engineering programs, we're going to have more science programs.
I don't want to leave anybody today with the impression that that's where everybody in Ontario is going, because if you're watching from London, Ontario right now, there's a beautiful liberal arts college on the campus of the University of Western Ontario called Huron University College. Very small, I think, maybe 1,500 students, something like that. Their admissions applications are up 30% year over year, more than 30%, according to their president, who I was in touch with this past week. So some people want a liberal arts education. That's what I got. Anyway, a nice wide shot, Mr. Director, if you would. Thank you, Sheldon. I want to thank everybody for coming into TVO tonight and helping us out with this. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
The Agenda with Steve Bacon is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.